Okay. So what is citing and referencing? So basically it is to reference research or to mention or cite, okay? Sources means to point to the evidence of an idea that you are presenting. Just like we saw in the research paper, they got a definition, and then you should tell your audience or your reader where you got this from, okay? So it's also acknowledging someone else's work or ideas, okay? It's not your idea, someone else's idea, and you're giving credit to that person or to that author. Because if you do not do that, okay, it'll be considered cheating, okay, and that is called in academic terminology, it is called plagiarism. Okay, it's like stealing, okay? And you don't want to do that because when you write a research paper, people are journals, scientific magazines, they are very strict on plagiarism. So make sure you do not do that. So when do you cite? Whenever you quote, okay, whenever you paraphrase, whenever you summarize, or otherwise refer to the work of another, you are required to cite its source and a complete reference. So basically, remember, it's two steps. Okay, you cite it in the paragraph, okay, that's called citing, and then of course you will have a complete reference right at the end. Now you can read a few ideas from 2 or 3 authors, and you can just write it in your own words. Okay, even for that you have to mention where you got these ideas from. Okay. Now this is an example, citing sources within your research paper. So whenever you quote a paraphrase, you summarize, or otherwise refer to the work of another, you are required to cite its source. For example, you have 3 paragraphs here. In the first paragraph, what the person has done is they have taken the ideas from different research papers and they have written a sentence, okay, and right at the end they are mentioning where they got this from. They've gotten this from 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 research papers. Okay, so they're mentioning all of them are mentioned within this parentheses. Have a look at the second one, same concept, but they're getting this idea from this research paper, just one. Now over here they've just taken one number, okay, and you have to mention even one number. They are mentioning where they got this from, okay, and they got this from this research paper. And how will you mention these in the references section? Okay, this is how they mention it completely in the references section. Now sometimes your doctor might say, okay, go ahead and search for research articles, and I want you to make a references list. Or sometimes they might say, I want you to make a bibliography when you're doing a research paper. So what is the difference between a references list and a bibliography? Well, references is, let's say you write a research paper and you refer to, let's say, maybe 5 books, okay, and 3 journals, okay, and 2 websites. In a references list, you will only mention the one that you have used in your research paper, okay. Let's say I only used 3 references maybe, so I will only mention those 3 references in my list of references. And let's say I use a reference from, you know, maybe a website, and I will mention that one website. In a bibliography, you will write everything that you have referred to. You will refer to all the 5 books, all the 5 books and the 3 journals and the 2 websites, all of them. Okay, so your bibliography is always longer than a list of your references. Okay, do not forget that. Like I mentioned before, citing and referencing involves 2 steps, and this is always the case. Okay, you cannot say, okay, I want to just want to mention the references, and I will leave the citing. Okay, I will not cite it in my paragraph. Or you might say, okay, let me mention it in my paragraph, and I don't need to mention it as a complete reference. Remember, it's a two-step. You have to mention, you have to do both. So you have to cite it. You have to have an in-text citation that is within the paragraph, and you have to create a complete list of references, okay, in either the bibliography section or the references section of your research paper. A difference between a reference and a bibliography, mentioned that before. So why is referencing, citing and referencing is important? Because you want to validate your research. Okay, you're not, see, when you're doing a research, you're adding to the body of knowledge that is already available. Okay, so for example, someone else has done a research in the US. You want to take that same idea and you want to apply it for Kuwait. Okay, so by mentioning it in your research and giving the citing and the referencing, what you're saying is this work or this thing has already been done, or what I'm doing is I'm adding to the body of knowledge, or let's say I'm applying it to my own environment. Okay, the second reason might be that you do not want to violate the rights of others. Okay, it's someone else's idea, someone else's hard work. Okay, so you want to just mention that in your work, because academics need to be able to trace the source of the information, or it can be anyone who's reading your article. They want to see, or they want to read the original article. They want to just dive in deeper into where you got the idea from. Okay, and of course you want to avoid plagiarism, which is, like I mentioned, cheating. Okay, now in your list of when you're writing your list of references, there are hundreds of styles of referencing. Your doctor might say use Harvard style, or they might say use APA style, or they might say use numbered style or Chicago style. So there are hundreds and hundreds of styles, but all of those styles fall in these three categories. Either they are author date style, or they are footnote style, or they are numbered style. Okay, they might be having a different name, but all of those hundreds of styles fall within these three categories. Okay, let's study each one of them. Let's have a look at the author date style, how it looks. Okay, see, so the author date style is also known as the in-text style. Okay, it gives the author's surnames or the last names and the date in round brackets. Okay, like this one. So this is the author date style. The complete list of reference is included at the end of the document in alphabetic order. Okay, by using the author's last name. Okay, so you will have a list of references, and all of these will be mentioned alphabetically using the author's last name. Okay, and this is also called the Harvard style, or the APA style, or Turabian style. Okay, so anytime your doctor says use the Harvard style, they are talking about the author date style. Okay, next we have the footnote style. In the footnote style, you will have, let's take this example, you will have a number as a superscript. Okay, superscript is basically anything that's coming above a line. Okay, so superscript numbers are added in the text, and citation details are provided at the bottom of each page. Okay, complete list of references is included at the end of the document, again in alphabetic order by author's last name or surname. Okay, so again, so you will have it over here, it's number 1, and down over here in the list of references. Again, although this is numbered, it's always mentioned in alphabetic style. And finally, you have the numbered style. So what is the numbered style? Like I showed you the research paper, they had numbers written in square brackets. Okay, and the list of references is included at the end of the document, and this time it is in numerical order. What does this mean? It basically means the first reference will come as number 1, the second one will be mentioned as number 2, the third reference that you mentioned in your research paper will come as number 3. Okay, unlike the previous two ones, they are always in alphabetic order. Okay, this one is sequence wise. First one comes first, second one second, third one that you mentioned in your research paper will come as number 3, so on and so forth. Okay, and this is also called the Vancouver style or the IEE style, although the IEE style is basically used in engineering. AIP, again, this is in medical, can be used, but usually it's the Vancouver style. Your doctor might say use Vancouver style. So anytime they say that, this is what they mention, and this is what they mean. So you basically have it over here. Okay, within the in-text citation will come like this, and of course you have the complete details. Remember, the first one will come as number 1, the second one's number 2, third one, fourth one, as you mentioned it. Okay, now all of you are a journalist, right? Journal is basically a scientific magazine, and our health science center or our faculty, okay, has its own journal, and that journal is called Medical Principles and Practice. Do not forget the name of the journal. Whenever I say our journal, whenever I say the Health Science Center journal, I'm talking about Medical Principles and Practice. And on a side note, do not forget that all of you are students of, the Health Science Center. The Health Science Center has many colleges. Okay, one of them is Allied Health. You also have pharmacy. You also have dentistry. Okay, so all of them are within or under the umbrella of Health Science Center. Okay, and Health Science Center has its own journal, and that journal is called Medical Principles and Practice. And this journal uses which style? It uses the numbered style. So anytime in your third year or fourth year or even after that, if you have to write for a journal, if you have to write for the Medical Principles and Practice journal, remember the style that they use is called the numbered style. Okay, when you have a list of references, okay, sometimes you might need to read the list of references, and you might want to know where the information is coming from. Is it coming from a book? Is it coming from a chapter? Is this coming from a journal, or is it coming from a website? How do you know if it is coming from a book? Let's see. References from books. So this is the style or the format. You will have the author, you will have the date, the title of the book, where was it published, and who the publisher was. Okay, so basically you have something like this. Okay, let's say this is the numbered style. This is the name of the authors or the names of the authors. That's the name of the book. Okay, a book title. And where was it published, and your publisher. Okay, now it was published in Boston, and that's your title. Okay, now the keyword that you have to look for is this one, ED. See this? ED basically means the editor. And what is the editor, or who is the editor? Editor basically means the manager of the journal or the book or the publication. Okay, you have to have a manager. For example, this one here in the footnote style, the whole thing is mentioned, edited by Viru Burma. So this is the person who is in charge of seeing if there's a mistake, if everything is in order, if the pictures are okay, if they are captioned properly, if the page numbers are okay, you know, all of that information has to be fixed by this person. So always, whenever you want to see if this is coming from a book, look for this keyword ed. Okay, ed over here. So this is edition. This one is edition, second edition, and the editor is ed is V Burma. Okay, so it's okay, here it says edited by, and then second edition ed. Okay, so whenever you see that, that means coming from a book. How do you know it's coming from a chapter? It is similar to a reference coming from a book, except you will have the name of the chapter. Okay, so for example, you have the complete reference over here, and before they mention the chapter, they will have the in keyword. If you have an in keyword, that means this is coming from a chapter. Okay, it's coming from Essentials of Computers. This is the chapter, and of course the name of the book is right here. How do you know if it is coming from a scientific journal, okay, or a scientific magazine? Again, it will have author, date, article, title. The journal name will be mentioned, and issue and volume number is something unique. Okay, so it won't have any place of publication. To have volume and issue number, and of course the pages. If you see pages like this, okay, and if you see issue and volume number like this, okay, or like this over here, or if you see a J. Now, not all the journals will have a J, but I would say like 90% of the time they will have the J keyword. Okay, Journal of Nursing Care Quality. But if this is not there, you will always have the issue and volume number and the pages, where on which pages was it published. So for example, this one over here, you have, you know, issue and volume number 14 and number 2, and these are the pages. And finally, references from a website. How do you know it's coming from a website? This is probably the easiest one. If you see a link, okay, that means it is coming from a website. So this reference is coming from a website. Okay, just see if it has a link or it has this HTTP, that means it is coming from a website. Okay, now there are some keywords that you need to know when you're reading a list of references. Okay, and I mentioned the most popular ones, and the first one that you might see or might see a lot is this IBID. So basically this basically means the same one as before. Okay, the same place as I mentioned before. If you have a list of references, let's say I mentioned all of this, and the second one I say IBID, but pages are 79 to 81. What I mean to say is I'm talking about the same reference, except the pages are different. Here it was page 55, here it's from pages 79 to 81. Have a look at the third one and the fourth one. So in the fourth one, I don't want to mention this again. Okay, I just say IBID, except the page numbers are different. Okay. Then you have SIC or SIC. This basically means I'm quoting this as I saw it in the original, even if there is a mistake in grammar or spelling. Okay, now here they have a mistake in the grammar, but they're mentioning it as SIC. I mean, even if there is a mistake over here, doesn't matter, I'm going to mention SIC, so whoever is reading this will know that the mistake is in the original text. Okay. double P and a single P. Double P means from this page to this page. Okay, so you have from page. Double P means from page 7 to 10. Okay, so always from and to. If you see a single P, that means it is on page this. Okay, if you have a look at the list of references, page 55. Over here you have from and to. That's why you have a double P. Okay, sometimes if you have an article that you're reading and it does not have a date, how do you mention it? Okay, so in the list of references, you will say instead of the date, you will say ND. So there was no date. And within the paragraph, you will say, you will mention the author and followed by ND. So there was no date. So whoever is reading it will know that there was no date on the research, on the publication. NP and N.PAG. NP basically means no publisher or no place of publication, and N.PAG means no pagination, means there were no page numbers like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And how do you mention it? That's how you mention it. No place of publication, no publisher, and of course there was no date. Okay. No pagination. So you found this article, it was an old article, but there was, there were no pages on it. Etal, okay, this is very popular. What does etal mean? You see this a lot, and this basically means that there is a group of people who have done this work, but only the first one is mentioned, or maybe first two are mentioned, depending on the policy of the journal. Now, for example, this one over here, you have within the paragraph they have 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 authors. Okay, but in the list of references, they have mentioned only 2 authors and followed by etal. As soon as you see etal, you know that there is a group besides these 2, but they are not mentioned. Now, every journal has their own policy. Some might say, okay, just mention 2 authors, okay, and then write etal. Some might say just write 1 author and then followed by etal. Depends on which journal you're writing for. Okay, that takes care of that. Whenever your doctor says that we are going to write for a journal, before you start writing for a journal, you need to know the guidelines for that journal. Okay, by guidelines, we basically mean how is the title page going to be, or what's coming on the title page. What about the abstract? Abstract is the summary of the article. How long is that going to be? Okay, and is it going to be structured or unstructured? What about the maximum number of pages or words? Some might say, okay, don't make it more than 5,000 words, or they might say should not be more than 6,000 words. Okay, so before you write your article, you should know the guidelines for authors. Now, any journal that you write for, you have to first go to the website of that journal, okay, and then take the information from there. Okay, the paragraph, okay, how the paragraph is going to be, what font you have to use, what is the formatting style, all of that you need to know. And what is the referencing style? What referencing style are they using? Numbered style? Are they using in-text style? So you need to know all of that before you start.